Excuse me, ma'am. I need to check my account balance. The voice was small, uncertain, the kind of voice that expects rejection before it even finishes speaking. Standing at the polished counter of Pinnacle Trust Bank in downtown Charlotte, North Carolina, was a 10-year-old black boy named Marcus Reed. His sneakers, discount store knockoffs with soles peeling away from the canvas, squeaked slightly against the gleaming marble floor. His jacket, 3 sizes too big, hung from his narrow shoulders like a hand-me-down flag of poverty. The frayed cuffs were stained. The zipper didn't work anymore. Branch manager Richard Caldwell stopped mid-stride. His eyes traveled slowly from Marcus's scuffed shoes to his wrinkled jeans, to his face. And then Richard did something that would destroy his career within the hour. He laughed. Not a polite chuckle, a full-throated theatrical laugh that echoed across the vaulted lobby like a slap. "Check your account?" Richard's voice dripped with mockery. "Kid, this is Pinnacle Trust, not a soup kitchen. We don't do charity cases here." He stepped closer, his expensive Italian leather shoes clicking against the floor. His cologne, something that probably cost more than Marcus's entire outfit, filled the space between them like invisible violence. "Look at those shoes," Richard continued, his voice rising so the other customers could hear. "Look at that jacket. Another street kid looking for a handout." He shook his head, playing to his audience. "You people never learn, do you? Get out before I have you removed." The security guard, a middle-aged black man named Vincent Carter, shifted his weight near the entrance. His hand moved instinctively toward his belt. His eyes met Marcus's for half a second, then looked away. A woman in designer sunglasses called out from the waiting area. "Just throw him out already. He's making the place look bad." Laughter rippled through the lobby. Cruel, confident, united against one small boy who'd made the mistake of being poor in a palace built for the rich. Before we go deep into this story, take a second and hit that subscribe button. Give this video a like, and let us know where you're watching from. I'm curious to know how far these stories travel.
Not one person defended Marcus. Not a single soul in that marble cathedral of money said a word on his behalf. But none of them, not Richard Caldwell with his 15 years of banking experience, not the laughing customers, not the silent security guard, could have imagined what was about to happen next. Within 60 minutes, Richard Caldwell would be the one begging. Not for money, for mercy. Marcus didn't run. He didn't cry. He stood exactly where he was, spine straight, just like his grandmother had taught him before she passed. "Ma'am, I have an account here," he said quietly. His voice trembled, but it didn't break. "My grandmother opened it for me before she died. She left me this." From inside his jacket, Marcus pulled out a manila envelope. Inside were documents, account papers, a bank card, and a handwritten letter his grandmother had written him 2 months before her heart finally gave out. Richard's eyes rolled dramatically. He turned to the watching customers like an actor on stage. "Your grandmother," he said with exaggerated skepticism. "Let me guess, she also left you a beach house in the Hamptons and a trust fund from oil investments?" More laughter. The customers were eating it up. Sarah Kim, the senior teller, leaned over her station. Her lip curled in disgust. "Mr. Caldwell, should I notify the police? This kid's obviously running some kind of scam." Richard waved his hand dismissively. "Not yet. Let's see what kind of con he's trying first." He snatched the envelope from Marcus's hands, roughly, like handling contaminated evidence. His eyes scanned the documents with theatrical boredom. Then he saw the bank card. Black. Premium tier. Diamond Elite status. The kind issued exclusively to clients with accounts over $200,000. For 1 second, something flickered across Richard's face. Confusion. Maybe even doubt. But prejudice is a powerful narcotic. It blinds you to what's right in front of your eyes. Richard shook off his doubt like water off a raincoat. Where did you steal this? He held the card up high, showing it to the lobby like a prosecutor displaying evidence. A black kid from the projects with a diamond elite card? You really expect me to believe that? Marcus's hands trembled at his sides. I didn't steal anything. It's mine. My grandmother. Your grandmother nothing, Richard cut him off. He threw the card onto the counter. It skidded across the polished surface and nearly fell off the edge. I've been in banking for 15 years, kid. I know fraud when I see it. He pointed toward the far corner of the lobby, near the restrooms, near the janitorial closet, the worst seats in the entire building. Sit over there. Don't move. Don't talk to anyone. I'm calling headquarters to verify this so-called account of yours. Marcus walked to the corner. Each step felt heavier than the last. He sat on the cold metal chair, shoulders hunched, surrounded by marble and brass and wealth that seemed to mock his very existence. He pulled out his grandmother's letter. Her handwriting was shaky, but filled with love.
My brave Marcus, never let anyone make you feel small. You are worth more than they will ever know. He read those words 3 times, trying to force himself to believe them. His phone buzzed. A text from his uncle. Stuck in a meeting. Be there in 20 minutes. You're doing great, champ. Marcus almost smiled. He had no idea how much those 20 minutes would change absolutely everything. 20 minutes became 30, then 40. Marcus sat in that corner, invisible, forgotten, erased. The bank hummed with activity around him. Customers came and went. Tellers smiled and processed transactions. Business continued as usual. Just not for Marcus. He watched Richard help a white man in a polo shirt open a brand new checking account. The man had arrived 20 minutes after Marcus. He was served immediately. No extra questions, no suspicion, no demands for secondary identification.
Just smiles and handshakes and welcome to Pinnacle Trust. Marcus watched Sarah bring Richard a cup of coffee from the break room. They stood together near the water cooler, laughing. Their eyes kept drifting toward Marcus's corner. More laughter. He couldn't hear what they were saying. He didn't need to. A woman in a designer dress deposited a check for thousands of dollars. The entire transaction took 3 minutes. She left without even glancing at the black kid sitting alone near the janitor's closet. An older woman named Gloria Patterson finished her transaction at the main counter. She was different. She glanced at Marcus. Her face tightened with something that looked like discomfort. Maybe guilt. For one moment, Marcus thought she might come over, might ask if he was okay, might be the one person in this entire building who showed some basic human decency. But she didn't. She just clutched her designer purse a little tighter and walked toward the exit. Her heels clicked against the marble. Each click a small betrayal. Marcus pulled out his grandmother's letter again. The paper was already soft from being handled so many times.
You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and loved more than you know. His grandmother used to read him that quote every night before bed. She said a famous author wrote it. Some children's book about a bear. Marcus didn't remember the details. He just remembered her voice. Warm like honey. Safe like a fortress. Gone like smoke. His phone buzzed again. Meeting running long. 15 more minutes. Stay strong, champ. Marcus typed back with shaking fingers. Okay. He didn't mention the laughter, the insults, the way Richard looked at him like he was garbage waiting to be thrown out. He didn't want to worry his uncle. Vincent Carter, the security guard, stood near the entrance. He was black like Marcus, mid-50s, tired eyes that had seen too much, gray creeping into his close-cropped hair. Vincent had witnessed everything insults, the laughter, the way Richard humiliated this boy in front of everyone. He wanted to speak up. God, he really did. But he had a mortgage, 2 daughters in college, 13 years at this bank building toward a pension. Silence meant employment. Employment meant survival. Vincent looked away, hated himself for it. But he looked away anyway.
Finally, after 43 minutes, Richard called Marcus over. Not to the main counter where normal customers were served, to a small desk in the back corner. Away from the pleasant banking areas, away from the comfortable chairs and complimentary coffee. Visible to everyone, but isolated, like an animal in a zoo exhibit. Marcus sat down in the hard plastic chair and placed his grandmother's documents on the desk carefully. Richard didn't touch them, didn't even look at them. Let's try this again. His voice was cold, clinical, the voice of a man performing for the security cameras. You claim you have an account at this bank. You claim your grandmother left you money, but you have no proper ID, no guardian present, no proof of address. And frankly, kid, you don't look like someone who belongs in an institution like this. Marcus's throat tightened. I have my school ID and my grandma's letter and the bank card with my name on it? Richard picked up the school ID with 2 fingers, like it might be contaminated. Jefferson Middle School, 5th grade. He tossed it back onto the desk. It slid toward Marcus, almost falling off the edge. This proves absolutely nothing. Any kid can get a school ID. Doesn't mean you have money in our bank. Then came the question that hit Marcus like a physical blow. Where are your parents? His father had left before he was born. His mother had died when he was 4. House fire. He didn't even remember her face except from photographs. I live with my uncle, Marcus said. His voice came out small, wounded. And where is this mysterious uncle? He's coming. He's in a meeting. An important meeting. Richard leaned back in his expensive leather chair, crossed his arms over his expensive silk tie. A meeting. Of course. How convenient. His smirk was ugly. Let me guess. He's the CEO of some Fortune 500 company? That's why a 10-year-old black kid in raggedy shoes has a Diamond Elite card. Because his uncle is so rich and important. Before we continue, take a second and share your thoughts so far on Marcus's situation. If you were in his shoes, literally and figuratively, how would you have handled this moment? Tell me in the comments below. Before Marcus could respond, Sarah appeared beside Richard. She bent down and whispered something in his ear. They both looked at Marcus. Sarah's smirk matched Richard's perfectly. I don't know what kind of scam you and your so-called uncle are running, Richard said, louder now, wanting the other customers to hear. But it won't work here. I'm freezing this account pending a full investigation. Marcus's eyes went wide. You can't do that. That's my grandma's money. She saved her whole life. Your grandma? Richard's voice dripped with sarcasm, each word a small knife. Right, the teacher who supposedly left you a fortune. Tell me something, kid. What did she really do? Rob a bank herself? Deal drugs? How else does someone like her end up with that kind of money? The words hung in the air like poison. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest, in the place where he kept his grandmother's memory safe. Richard stood up from his desk, straightened his tie, smoothed his jacket. Then he raised his voice, made absolutely sure the entire lobby could hear every word. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this disruption. His voice carried like a practiced actor's. This is what we deal with every single day. People who don't belong in places like this, trying to take what isn't theirs. 7 customers watched the spectacle. Some nodded in agreement, their prejudices confirmed. Others looked uncomfortable, but stayed silent. None of them spoke up. Gloria Patterson had returned. She'd made it to her car in the parking lot, but she couldn't turn the key, couldn't drive away. Something guilt,
conscience, basic humanity, had pulled her back inside. Now she stood near the entrance, watching everything unfold. Her hands were shaking. "I don't know where you stole that card," Richard continued, pointing at Marcus like a prosecutor at trial. "I don't know what kind of lies you've been told, but you are not getting a single penny from this bank. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever." Marcus's vision blurred with tears. He tried to stop them. "Boys don't cry," some voice in his head said. His grandmother's voice answered. "Boys feel, Marcus. Feeling is strength." "My grandma worked 42 years, he managed to say. His voice cracked, but he kept going. "She was a teacher at Jefferson Middle. She saved everything for me. She promised." "Spare me the sob story." Richard's voice was a slap. "I've heard them all before. Every con artist has a dead grandmother and a tragic tale." He turned to Vincent, still standing by the entrance. "Security, escort this kid out of my bank. Now." Vincent didn't move. His feet felt nailed to the marble floor. "Did you hear me?" Richard's voice sharpened. "I said now." Vincent walked toward Marcus slowly, each step a small death of his self-respect. 13 years of silence. 13 years of watching Richard humiliate people who didn't fit his image of a real customer. Immigrants struggling with English, women in second-hand clothes, elderly people confused by technology. Anyone who looked poor, sounded different, seemed vulnerable. Vincent had never spoken up. Not once, not ever. Today was no different. He stopped in front of Marcus, extended his hand, couldn't meet the boy's eyes. Marcus stood up on his own. He didn't need help. He picked up his grandmother's letter from the desk, pressed it against his heart like a shield, walked toward the door with as much dignity as a 10-year-old could carry. Richard's voice followed him like a curse. "Next time you want to beg for money, try a homeless shelter. That's more your natural environment." Someone in the lobby actually laughed. A real laugh, loud and cruel. Marcus reached the exit. His phone started ringing. The screen lit up. Uncle Cameron calling. He tried to answer. His hands were shaking too badly. The phone slipped from his fingers, crashed onto the marble floor. The screen cracked. Vincent picked it up. For one moment, their eyes met. In that moment, Marcus saw something he didn't expect. Shame. Bone-deep, soul-crushing shame. Vincent was drowning in it. But shame wasn't enough. Words were needed. Action was needed. Vincent handed back the phone, said nothing, let the boy walk out alone. Marcus pushed through the automatic doors. They closed behind him with a soft whoosh. Inside the bank, Richard straightened his tie again, smiled at Sarah. "And that's how you handle it," he said, satisfaction oozing from every word. "Give these people an inch, they'll take everything." Sarah nodded, but her smile had faded. Something uncomfortable stirred in her stomach. Richard's phone buzzed. An email notification. Subject: urgent. Major investor visit. Immediate preparation required. He glanced at it, deleted it without reading. Too busy. Too important. Too confident in his own power. He should have read that email. He really, really should have. Outside, the November wind bit through Marcus's thin jacket. He sat on a stone bench in the parking lot, drew his knees up to his chest, made himself as small as possible. The manila envelope with his grandmother's documents sat beside him, the cracked phone in his lap, the letter clutched in his fist, getting more wrinkled by the minute. He looked down at his shoes, the ones Richard had mocked, the ones everyone had laughed at. His grandmother had bought them at a thrift store last spring. $3. Marcus had been embarrassed at first. Other kids at school had name-brand sneakers. "Shoes don't make the man, baby," she'd said, kneeling down to tie the laces for him. "Character does. And you have more character in your little finger than most people have in their whole bodies." She had worn her own shoes until they fell apart, fixed them with tape and glue until they couldn't be fixed anymore. Marcus now understood why. Every dollar she didn't spend on herself was a dollar she saved for him. Tears fell onto the cracked phone screen. He didn't bother wiping them away. He tried calling his uncle. Straight to voicemail. He sent a text, typing through tears.
Uncle Cameron, they kicked me out. They said I stole Grandma's card. They called me a thief. Then he waited. 1 minute. 3 minutes. 5 minutes. No response. The meeting must still be going. Uncle Cameron always put his phone on silent during important meetings. Marcus had no one to call. No one to help. No one coming to save him. A woman walked by in a business suit, designer bag, perfect makeup. She saw the crying black boy on the bench, the one who'd just been thrown out of the bank. She'd seen the whole thing through the window. She kept walking. A man jogged past with his golden retriever. The dog wanted to stop and sniff Marcus. The man yanked the leash, hurried on. Cars pulled in and out of the parking lot. People entered the bank. People left the bank. Nobody stopped. Nobody asked if he was okay. Marcus was invisible. He unfolded his grandmother's letter one more time. The paper was damp now, spotted with tears.
My brave Marcus, the world will sometimes be cruel. People will judge you by your shoes, your clothes, the color of your skin. They will try to make you feel worthless. But you are not worthless. You are my greatest treasure. Everything I have saved, everything I have worked for, it's all yours now. Use it to fly high. Use it to prove them all wrong. And remember, dignity is not given. It is carried. Carry yours with pride, baby. Always. All my love, forever and ever. Grandma Ruth. She had promised him, sitting in her little kitchen, eating pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse. She had promised. One day you'll walk into that bank and they'll treat you like a king, Marcus. They'll call you sir and shake your hand. You'll see. Today they had called him a beggar, a thief, a con artist. Today they had thrown him out like garbage. Grandma Ruth, wherever she was, must be heartbroken. Inside the bank, Vincent stood at his post by the door. His eyes kept drifting to the parking lot, to the small figure on the bench. His chest felt tight. His hands wouldn't stop clenching. 14 years ago, Vincent had been that boy.
Different bank, different city, same humiliation. A white manager had refused to cash his paycheck. Need extra verification for people like you. A security guard had followed him around a store. Just doing my job, sir. A realtor had suddenly found that an apartment was no longer available after seeing his face. 1,000 small cuts over a lifetime. Some not so small. And now Vincent was the one in the uniform. The one following orders. The one enabling the cruelty. His younger self would be disgusted. He moved toward the door. Maybe he could just... Vincent! Richard's voice cut through like a whip. Stop daydreaming. There's a delivery at the back entrance. Handle it. Vincent hesitated. 1 second. 2 seconds. Then he turned and walked toward the back. The moment passed. Outside, Marcus was still alone. But not for much longer. A black Mercedes S-Class turned into the parking lot. Sleek, silent, expensive. It stopped near the entrance. The door opened. And everything was about to change. Cameron Reed stepped out of the Mercedes. 6'2", silver gray suit that cost more than Richard Caldwell's monthly salary.
salt and pepper hair, an aura of quiet authority that made people instinctively straighten their posture. He spotted Marcus immediately. His nephew, his late sister's only child, the last living piece of his mother remaining in this world. Sitting on a cold bench, crying, clutching a crumpled letter, completely alone. Cameron's jaw tightened. A muscle twitched beneath his eye, the only visible sign of the fury building inside him. He walked to the bench, knelt down so he was at Marcus's eye level. "Hey, champ." His voice was gentle, a stark contrast to everything Marcus had heard in the past hour. "I'm here now." Marcus looked up. His face crumpled completely. "Uncle Cameron!" He threw himself into his uncle's arms, sobbed against his expensive shoulder, tears and snot staining the silk wool blend. Cameron didn't care about the suit, didn't even notice. He held his nephew tight.
Didn't rush him, didn't ask questions, just let the boy cry until the shaking stopped. Tell me what happened. Marcus told him everything, every word, every insult, every laugh, every moment of humiliation. Cameron listened in absolute silence. His face remained calm, controlled, but his eyes grew darker with each sentence, harder, colder. When Marcus finished, Cameron stood up slowly. "You did nothing wrong," he said. His voice was firm as bedrock. "Nothing. Do you understand me? This is not your fault. None of it." "But they said..." "And they were wrong. And they're about to find out exactly how wrong." He took Marcus's hand, started walking toward the bank entrance. Marcus pulled back. "I don't want to go back in there. Please, Uncle Cameron, please." Cameron stopped, knelt down again. "I know, champ. I know it's scary. But sometimes we have to face the people who hurt us." He squeezed Marcus's hand. "Not to fight them, not to yell at them, but to show them that they couldn't break us, that we're still standing, that they have no power over us. Before we go deeper, I would love to hear your point of view. If you were Marcus right now, what would you do? Would you walk back in there, or would you walk away? Tell me what part of this story has hit you the hardest so far, and share your thoughts in the comments."
Marcus looked at the glass doors, at the marble lobby beyond, at the place where he'd been humiliated. He thought about his grandmother. What would she want him to do? Dignity is not given. It is carried. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay." A second car pulled into the parking lot, a luxury SUV with tinted windows. A woman stepped out, tall, elegant, professional. Jennifer Hartwell, regional director of Pinnacle Trust Bank. She had been driving to the quarterly investor meeting, the one Richard kept ignoring in his emails, when her phone rang. Cameron Reed on the line, CEO of Apex Capital Group, the bank's largest institutional investor. He explained what had happened in exactly 60 seconds. Calm, factual, devastating. Jennifer had immediately changed course. She approached Cameron now, nodded respectfully. "Mr. Reed, I cannot tell you how sorry I am. This is completely unacceptable."
Cameron's expression didn't soften. "We'll discuss what's acceptable inside. My nephew deserves an apology, and I want to see exactly who we're dealing with." Jennifer nodded. "Of course, whatever you need." They walked toward the entrance together. Cameron, Jennifer, Marcus. Marcus's heart pounded so hard he could feel it in his ears. His legs felt weak, rubbery. The last time he walked through these doors, he was thrown out like trash. Now he was walking back in, with his uncle's hand warm around his, with a regional director beside them. He didn't understand everything that was happening, but he understood this. Something had shifted.
The ground beneath his feet felt different. The automatic doors slid open. The lobby fell silent. Every head turned. Richard Caldwell saw Jennifer Hartwell first. His face went white as chalk. Regional director. Unannounced visit. This was very, very bad. He hurried over, adjusting his tie, forcing his VIP smile onto his face. "Miss Hartwell, what a wonderful surprise!" His voice was too loud, too eager. "We weren't expecting you until—" Plans changed. Jennifer's voice could have frozen water. Then Richard noticed the man beside her. Tall, distinguished, the kind of suit that screamed money and power. Richard's stomach dropped. The black kid, the one he'd just thrown out, the one he'd called a thief, a beggar, a con artist.
The kid was back, and he was holding hands with someone who clearly mattered. "I'd like to introduce you to someone," Jennifer said. Her voice carried across the silent lobby. "This is Cameron Reed, founder and CEO of Apex Capital Group." The name hit Richard like a physical blow. Apex Capital Group, the bank's largest institutional investor. 37% ownership of the parent company. The man who could make or break careers with a single phone call. That man, that Cameron Reed, was holding hands with the kid Richard had just destroyed.
"I believe you've already met my nephew," Cameron said quietly. He stepped aside. Marcus stood there. Eyes still red. Grandmother's letter still clutched to his chest. But now he was standing straight. Chin up. Shoulders back. Richard's face cycled through emotions like a slot machine. Confusion. Recognition. Dawning horror. Pure terror. I didn't... If I had known who he was... "That's exactly the problem," Cameron said. "Isn't it?" Sarah dropped her pen. It clattered against the marble floor like a gunshot in the silence. Vincent, standing near the back now, felt something shift in his chest. Something that had been dead for 13 years, stirring back to life.
Gloria Patterson, still by the entrance, pressed both hands against her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. Every single person in that lobby was watching. The customers who had laughed, the employees who had enabled, the bystanders who had stayed silent. All of them witnesses now to what was about to happen next. Cameron released Marcus's hand. He walked toward Richard slowly, each step deliberate, each step measured. The walk of a man who knew his power and didn't need to rush. Richard took a step backward. His back hit the marble counter. Nowhere to run. Mr. Caldwell. Cameron's voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The entire lobby was holding its breath. "My nephew came here today to check his account balance. His grandmother, my mother, left him that money as his inheritance. It's legally his. Every penny. Can you explain why he was denied service?" Richard's mouth opened, closed, opened again. He looked like a fish drowning in air. "There were irregularities. We were just following standard protocol." "What irregularities?" Cameron's voice remained calm, controlled. Somehow that made it more terrifying than shouting. "The account is properly documented. The funds have been verified by your own bank. What specific irregularity justified treating a 10-year-old child like a criminal?" "I didn't realize. If I had known who he was..."
That's exactly the problem. Cameron stepped closer. Richard tried to press himself into the counter, but there was nowhere to go. "You didn't know who he was.
So you decided he was nobody. You saw a black kid in worn-out shoes and you made a judgment. Not about protocols, not about policies, about who deserves to be treated like a human being. The words landed like hammer blows. My mother worked 42 years as a teacher. She rode the bus until she was 70 because she never wanted to waste money on a car. She wore the same winter coat for 17 years. She ate store-brand groceries so she could put money aside. Cameron's voice didn't waver. If she had walked in here today, you would have treated her exactly the same way. Laughed at her, humiliated her, thrown her out. Richard said nothing. There was nothing to say. She would have deserved better, just like Marcus, just like every single person who walks through those doors. Cameron turned to Jennifer. Before we discuss consequences, I want Mr. Caldwell to see something. Jennifer nodded. Cameron walked to the main counter. Marcus followed, still holding his hand. Sarah stood behind her computer, frozen. Her face was the color of old paper. "Pull up my nephew's account," Cameron said. It wasn't a request. Sarah looked at Jennifer. Jennifer nodded once.
Trembling fingers typed. The screen loaded slowly. Everyone held their breath. And there it was. Account balance, $523,847. Over $500,000. 42 years of a teacher's salary. Every birthday card with money tucked inside. Every Christmas bonus. Every summer tutoring job. Every single dollar Ruth Reed had earned, saved, sacrificed. All for Marcus. Richard stared at the number. His face went gray. His mouth fell open. No sound came out. Complete silence. Then Cameron spoke. He laughed at your shoes. His voice was quiet, but carried to every corner of the lobby. He stopped laughing when he saw the balance. The number glowed on the screen. $523,847. Richard couldn't stop staring at it. His brain couldn't process what his eyes were seeing. $500,000 in an account belonging to the kid he just called a beggar. That, Cameron said, pointing at the screen, is the money my mother saved over 42 years. She rode buses in the rain so Marcus could go to college someday. She wore secondhand clothes so Marcus could have a future. She ate rice and beans for dinner so Marcus would never go hungry. He paused, let the words sink in. And you almost took that away from him because of his shoes. Richard finally found his voice. It came out cracked and desperate. I didn't know. If I had known there was that much money. And that's the real problem. Cameron's voice went cold, sharp as a blade. You would have treated him differently if you knew he had money. Your respect comes with a price tag. But human dignity doesn't. He looked at the number one more time, then at Marcus.
My mother always said something to me. A person who treats the waiter differently than the CEO has no character at all. Today, you showed your character, Mr. Caldwell. The whole lobby saw it. Richard had nothing to say, because Cameron was right, and everyone knew it. Jennifer stepped forward. Her heels clicked against the marble like a countdown. Mr. Caldwell, my office, now. Richard didn't move. Couldn't move. His legs had turned to concrete. Mr. Caldwell. He blinked, looked at Jennifer, then at Cameron, then at Marcus, the boy he had mocked, insulted, humiliated, thrown out, the boy whose grandmother had trusted him with everything she'd ever owned. Richard's career flashed before his eyes. 15 years, building relationships, climbing the ladder, corner office, company car, all of it crumbling like sand. I can explain,
he whispered. You'll have that opportunity. Jennifer's voice was ice and iron. In private. Now. She turned and walked toward the back offices. Richard followed on unsteady legs. The rest happened quickly. Richard Caldwell was terminated within 72 hours. No severance, no recommendation letter, no pension benefits beyond what was legally required. 15 years of work, gone in 15 minutes. Sarah Kim received a formal reprimand, mandatory bias training, permanent note in her file. She kept her job, barely. 6 months later, she transferred to a different branch. A year after that, she left banking entirely and became a social worker. Vincent Carter faced his demons. 3 weeks after the incident, when a young Hispanic woman came into the bank nervous and uncertain, and a new teller started getting frustrated with her broken English, Vincent walked over and said, "This woman is a customer. She deserves patience and respect. Help her properly, or I will find someone who can."
It was the first time in 13 years he had spoken up. His hands shook afterward. His heart pounded. But he had spoken up, and it felt like breathing after being underwater for too long. Gloria Patterson joined the bank's community advisory board. She volunteered at schools, spoke to students about courage, about speaking up, about the cost of silence. "I was a bystander once," she told them. "I chose to stay quiet. It's a choice I regret every single day. Don't make my mistake." Jennifer Hartwell implemented sweeping changes across the entire region. Mandatory bias training, new customer service protocols, an anonymous reporting hotline, zero tolerance for discrimination. She also made one more change, a personal one. She called Cameron directly and asked, "I want to do more than just discipline bad behavior. I want to honor your mother's legacy. What would that look like?" Cameron thought about it, talked to Marcus, talked to his memories of Ruth. A week later, they announced it. The Ruth Reed Memorial Scholarship, named after Marcus's grandmother, funded by the bank, administered by a community foundation. Every year, 2 scholarships awarded. Full tuition, books, living expenses. Recipients, students from underserved communities pursuing degrees in education. Teachers teaching future teachers. Ruth Reed's legacy multiplied. Before we wrap this up, I want to hear from you. What's the biggest lesson you're taking away from Marcus's story? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and your perspective matters.
Marcus Reed walked across a sun-drenched campus. Georgetown University, first day of freshman orientation. 18 years old now, tall, confident, a far cry from the frightened 10-year-old in the marble lobby. But not entirely different. He still carried his grandmother's letter, laminated and protected now, tucked safely in his wallet, close to his heart. And on the shelf in his dorm room sat a pair of worn-out sneakers, cracked soles, frayed laces, faded from years of careful display. His roommate noticed them immediately. "Dude, are those your shoes? They're completely destroyed." Marcus smiled. "They're the most valuable thing I own." "Valuable? They look like they belong in a trash can." Marcus picked them up gently, ran his thumb over the cracked canvas. "My grandmother bought these for me when I was 10, $3 from a thrift store. She apologized because she couldn't afford better." He set them back on the shelf. "She saved over $500,000 for my education, wore the same coat for 17 years, took the bus in the rain, ate cheap food so I could have a future." He looked at his roommate. "These shoes remind me that love isn't about what you have, it's about what you give." His roommate was quiet for a long moment. "That's actually really beautiful, man." "Yeah,
Marcus touched the shoes one more time. She was really beautiful. Cameron Reed continued running Apex Capital, but he made changes too. He started a mentorship program for young people from underserved communities, paid internships, real opportunities, actual career paths.
Not charity. Investment. Talent is distributed equally, he told his board. Opportunity isn't. We can change that. The Ruth Reed Memorial Scholarship flourished. 16 recipients in 8 years. Teachers, counselors, principals, all carrying Ruth's legacy forward. Vincent retired from the bank 3 years after the incident. He became a school resource officer. Different kind of security, protecting kids instead of removing them. Every time he stood up for a student, he thought of Marcus. He never stayed silent again. Not once. Marcus stood at his dorm window as the sun set over Georgetown. Tomorrow, classes would start. His future would begin. He pulled out his grandmother's letter, read it one more time. The words he knew by heart. My brave Marcus, never let anyone make you feel small. You are worth more than they will ever know. Dignity is not given, it is carried. Carry yours with pride. He had carried it through the worst day of his life, through years of growing up, through the journey that brought him here. His phone buzzed. Uncle Cameron. First day tomorrow. How are you feeling, champ? Nervous? Excited? Ready? Your grandma would be so proud of you. I know. I think about her every day. She's with you, Marcus. Always will be. They talked for a few more minutes. Then Marcus hung up.
He had orientation to attend, a future to build, a legacy to honor. He grabbed his backpack, brand new, expensive, a gift from Uncle Cameron. But on his feet were the old sneakers, the ones he'd brought to campus, the ones he wore on special occasions. Today felt like a special occasion. Marcus Reed walked out of his dorm room into his future, carrying his dignity with pride, just like Grandma Ruth taught him. Respect is not a reward for success. It's not earned by money, fancy clothes, or knowing the right people. It's the baseline of humanity, the minimum we owe each other.
Marcus Reed didn't need a powerful uncle to deserve basic decency. No one does. But that day in the bank, he learned something important. Some people measure your worth by your shoes, others by your wallet. A few rare ones measure it by your character. Be one of the rare ones. And if you ever find yourself in a lobby watching someone be humiliated, ask yourself, which person do you want to be? The one who laughed? The one who filmed? The one who stayed silent? Or the one who spoke up? The choice is yours. It's always yours. Dignity is not given. It is carried. Carry yours with pride, and help others carry theirs. That's how we change the world. One small act of courage at a time. If this story reminded you of something you've witnessed, or something you stayed silent about, I want to hear from you. Hit that like button, subscribe to American Truth Tales, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me, what moment in Marcus's story hit you the hardest? What would you have done differently? Your voice matters. Let's talk about it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.